Hey everybody, welcome to week 5. I can't believe we're already here. This week we're focusing on old age on ourselves. When I say old age, I am generally speaking about anyone from the age of 70 to 100, right? Advanced age. Certainly you have been doing research and you have been collecting images in your makeup board. But this week, I'm asking you to turn to your family. Because we have the same genetic makeup as our grandparents and our great-grandparents and even our parents, these images of the people in your family are going to be very helpful keys to unlocking what you might look like once you hit 70 plus, right? And so this week, I would like for you to find a picture of a family member. Probably best if that individual is of the same gender of you as you. So behind me, I have a picture of my mother's father. That's Grandpa Al back there. And so I, again, printed out, just like we did last week, styling from photographs. I printed out in black and white because for me, it's just a little easier to see. I took my film with my dry erase marker, placed it over the image. He has glasses on in every photo that I have, so I have to kind of make up a little bit what I can't see behind his glasses. But I went ahead and I traced my grandfather's face, got all of the important wrinkles and lines and all of the things that made him incredibly human, took this image and then transferred it onto my blank personal makeup chart that I made at the beginning of the semester, creating my makeup map, right, that just shows the basics of the highlight and shadow. And this is the first step in sort of understanding where the lines and where the highlight is and the shadow. And so obviously there is a little bit of an artistry that needs to happen between this image and this image. And then from here, from our makeup map, we're able to create our full color artistic rendering. And it isn't going to be exact because, of course, my face is not the same face of my grandfather. I certainly have some features, but absolutely we need to make some artistic choices because we're using our face as the canvas. And so these are the 3 steps. I would ask that you find a portrait of an elderly family member, trace it, make your makeup map, make your full color rendering as we begin our process of creating old age. Okay, so generally, one of the important things to think about when you're producing old age makeup is what is the color of the skin, right? When we did corrective glamour makeup, we spent a lot of time trying to find your perfect match, the match of the base to your skin. But when we start talking about creating characters that are outside of our own normal age and our own normal selves, we have to think about what they have gone through in their life. Have they spent a lot of time indoors? Do they have very pale skin, right? So you might want to go a few shades lighter on your base. Have they spent a lot of time in the sun? Have they had a hard life? Is their skin very leathery, right? So you might want to go a few shades darker. So take that opportunity to make some artistic choices, especially about your base color. I am going to just go ahead and use the Olive Fair out of the Ben Nye kit. I'm just going to use that straight out. And I'm just going to dot my face. I have by the way, I started by cleansing my face with our friend Witch Hazel, so make sure you clean your face before you do this. Gentlemen, you probably want to shave just because some of the highlight and shadow when you're creating the illusion of wrinkles and divots, it's going to be pretty hard to do when you have a 5 o'clock shadow. So I shaved this morning, cleaned my face with Witch Hazel, and now I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to dot my base over my face here. Nice and even. Getting a good coverage, right, all the way here and under my eyes. You want to get a relatively decent coverage because you're going to want to use this base to help you blend some of your wrinkles. I'm also going to do my neck. That's going to be really important. Getting good coverage, and then taking my sponge and blending in. Getting a nice, even palette. Right. Certainly you're all familiar with this step, kind of blend up into my hairline. I will sometimes use one of these little headbands just to keep my hair out of the way, but I think it's going to be okay today. So blend down into my neck. Getting some pretty even coverage there. Okay. So now I have my even coverage of base, and I'm going to start with my shadow. I always like to look to the dark and then to the light. It's a little easier for me to see, and I think it's important because the shadow usually creates the wrinkles and the lines, and then the highlight helps to give the illusion of the skin folding over that shadow. So I'm going to start just using my brown character shadow, CS3, and I'm going to use my finer brush here, and I'm going to look at my rendering. I have it up on my computer screen so I can see it while I paint, but you can see it behind me. It's also on the example of this week's Google slide board. So I'm just going to kind of go in and start painting in some of these details. And again, you want to really avoid lines, like heavy lines on your face. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that young designers make when they're trying to emulate wrinkles and folds that aren't there. Certainly as I get older, the wrinkles and folds become more realistic. But you want to avoid as many lines on your face. If you make a line, you're always going to want to blend that out. That's what's going to give you the reality of a wrinkle. So I'm going to go in and just start. Now, one of the ways that you can help create these lines and understanding that you have a believable line is using the lines that you already have. Okay. So as I smile, I've got some crow's feet here. If I do that to my forehead, I have a pretty severe wrinkle here. You know, frown, scrunch, do these things, and that will really help you to find those lines. So I'm kind of smiling and I'm looking at the nasolabial fold, and that's a pretty prominent feature in my grandfather. So I'm going to smile, I'm going to take my brush and just create a nice thin line there. Yeah. Do it again here. Nice, start kind of thick and just let it blend out, okay? And as I do that, I'm just going to go in here and I'm just going to feather it out. I want to really kind of avoid those lines being solid lines. I really want them to just kind of blend into my skin and look more natural. So I'm feathering it down as I go there, right? I'm going to do the same thing here. Just pulling. I'm not putting any more makeup on the brush. Just kind of pulling it out here. Went over the line there. And then once I have that, I'm just going to pull it down with my finger. Pat a path, right? Just kind of get your nice soft line there, so it's not a hard line. So you can see there is still a shadow there, and that line is still prominent, but it isn't a solid dark line, okay? So as I move through here, a little bit on my chin, a little crooked. I'm going to pull up. Like so. Kind of blending it up. Getting it nice and smooth, right? So again, we have that little bit of a line, but it is not super prominent, okay? Getting the bags under the eyes, kind of have like so. And again, I start with my brush, blob it in there, and then just ever so gently start to carry it out so that it almost goes to nothing, right? Put some there, and then maybe a little more here. One here. I'm kind of using my own wrinkles and the wrinkles in my rendering to help create. Right? Just really getting that nice, crisp, blended line, right? See, I'm just squinting to make that happen, right? Some here. And again, you're rendering as a map, right? We want to use the ideas that you've created. I'm going to blend these down here just so that I can get a nice just pulling that down ever so slightly, right? Same here. Doing all those shadows and then kind of blending them in, right? But as I was saying, you can, you know, your rendering is the idea. It's the blueprint. But as an artist, we don't want to live in the past. We always want to live in the present. We always want to be creating in the present and making decisions in the moment. So you may have drawn an extra wrinkle or two, but if they're not there and you decide to eliminate them or add more, that's okay. That's going to give you, you should have the freedom to do those things. Don't feel like you have to do a particular wrinkle or fold if you don't think it's gonna hold well on your face. Okay, so I'm starting to get all these kind of dark splotches on my face. You can see it's starting to transform. I'll get this big wrinkle right here, just kind of out to nothing. I have a pretty deep divot here from frowning. Looks like I kind of, grandfather's nose is a little bigger than mine, so I want to kind of accentuate my nose, and so I'm going to kind of draw out a little bit and make it slightly more bulbous, right? Creating the lines here and here, right? And then I'm just going to pull that down. Just ever so gently blend that down. I'm just going to kind of blend it into my nose here, to the side of my nose, right? And then I'm going to take it up into my eye because I've definitely put some shadow into the eyes here to make them look like they're kind of sunken in, right? Pull that and then pull down this little bit of nose shadow, like so. Blend up into the eye, right? Like so. A little more here. It's looking pretty dark, but once we get the highlight in there, I think it's really going to help. Like so, right? Good. You look like I have two black eyes. I'm going to paint into the crevice of my eyes here, just because I think as you get older, your eyes start to kind of, well, it's not your eyes, it's the skin around your eyes that starts to sag, and it makes your eyes look like they're a little more sunken in. Don't be afraid to go too dark. I think, you know, you can always pull back. I would much rather see you take a chance and really really go for it and try to create these wrinkles and lines. We can always pull you back. It's harder to get students to move forward and to do more. So don't be afraid. Less is more. So if we have this nasolabial fold that kind of comes down here a little bit, I'm going to just extend this, and then I'm going to start to create this jowl line. And my jawline here is still, you know, it's not quite sagging too much yet. So I want to actually paint below to kind of create that bloop of skin folding over, right? And so I'm going to paint below my jawline right there just to kind of give that appearance of a sagging jawline. Okay, I'll do this on the other side as well. Right below there. And then I want to just feather those down, right? Again, creating a shadow, not a line. Or turning your line into a shadow, maybe it's a better way to put it. If you get too much, don't worry, just rub it off or rub it down. You can always go back and fix it later. You can start to see, how the face is starting to sag. A little bit of darkening at the temples, probably another few more crow's feet. I think he had a little more. I'm going to darken at the temples because, again, as the skin starts to fall over the skull when you get older, it starts to sink in and divots. And one of the places it tends to do that is right in at your temple. So just add a little bit of shadow. Again, trying not to create a line, but more of a shadow, right there. And then it looks kind of like, his forehead is pretty prominent, and so it looks like we might want a little bit of shadow around the hairline, just to kind of help make that that shadow and that highlight and that forehead pop. A little more here, like so. Maybe another wrinkle there. See, it kind of got a little blobby there, so I'm just going to pull it out and make it a little thinner, and then really just pull some of that paint down, right, just to create the illusion of the shadow, right. He had a pretty deep divot here, right, like so, and then across the chin, keep going a little more. Paint under the chin a little bit. Like so. I also want to paint the neck, right? Because to have sort of old age on the face and then have, a very young neck, that'll be your first giveaway. We'll practice a little bit on our hands too, but I kind of go like that. I can see those tendons, right, and where they stick out. As we get older, it starts to sag away, right? So I just want to kind of add a little bit of shadow there, right down the center. Kind of rub it down. There we go. Get it. And then kind of on either side of that, do another. Same here. Just feather it out. You can start to see the lightness of my skin is already starting to act as a highlight, right? Probably sink in the cheeks just a little bit here to make some of this he kind of had like a double fold there on his face. My grandfather was a plumber, so he worked very hard his whole life. He lived until he was about 80. He had major breathing problems from smoking. He had stopped smoking later in his life, but it took a toll on his lungs, and so he made it to 80. That was his goal. He was a neat man. He loved corny jokes. Always made me smile. So I'm glad to kind of honor him a little bit in this way. Okay. So you can start to see how the face is sinking in, right? We're creating the illusion of where some of these divots are. I think I might want to paint in a little bit more here into my eye just to get that darker. But I think I'm going to move over into highlight. Okay, like so. So I'm going to clean off my brush here. And we can always go back and add a little more low light. And I think part of doing successful age makeup is understanding that there is a variation. It's not just brown and white or brown and ivory. There is between shadows, right? So it's the super hot and the super dark, the super light, the super dark, and then there's an in between. Okay. So one of the things I want to do is actually add a little base to my lips. My grandfather had smaller lips but a longer mouth, and so I'm actually just going to add a little more base over my lips here just to kind of cover them up so that I can paint over them to create the illusion of a longer mouth. Okay, so I used the finer brush for all of that dark detail. I'm going to go back to my wider brush, and I'm going to go to use the ultralight, the sort of creamy light, not the white. I'm going to start there, and this is going to be highlight, but it's all. Then I'll go in and I'll add a little hot white once we get there. So all of the places that I really want to see pop out, right, almost like a balloon, right. What is the part that's hitting the light the most? Certainly the nose. I'm just going to paint down here, kind of blend that out like so. Really, that white should run right, or that light should run right up to the shadow that you've created. Certainly here, I want to just find the first line that I made as a wrinkle and kind of run my highlight right along there. And then take my finger and just kind of blend it together. You don't want to blend over it, but you definitely want it to sit right on top of that other line right there, like so. And once you blend it up and out, that's going to give you the illusion of your wrinkle, like so. And again, you don't necessarily need a super fine brush to do this. Obviously, the more experience you have in doing this, the easier it'll be to control the brush. So keep practicing. I'm a little high there. I just want to get down to that right next to that dark line and blend up, right? Dark lines I blended down. White lines I'm just going to blend and feather them up, right? Same here. We've got this pretty strong nasolabial fold. I'm just going to run it right along that dark line like so and let it go out to nothing. And then I'm going to feather it up and away from that dark line. Right? Like so. Gives that illusion. You can kind of start to see how it's, as I step away, it's really starting to make that nasolabial fold dip in, right? Same on this side. Start and then run it right along that dark line. Oops. Didn't get quite close enough there, but it's a great thing about makeup. You mess up, you just wash it off and start again. See, like that. Starting to make sense. Pretty big highlight on the chin there, like so. And I want to run a highlight here against this big divot, make that really stand out on both sides, right? Get a little closer there. Blend out, blend away from the dark line. It'll help to really form that highlight and shadow, right? Some of my crow's feet, I can go a little hotter. There, like there. Just kind of blend away, again, just blend away from that dark line. Really creating that illusion, right? Okay. Probably, we still have our cheekbones. He had pretty strong cheekbones. So I think I'm going to actually put some highlight right here in the middle just to kind of emulate that bone structure here, right there, like so. And the same here, just really, this looks like I painted over one of my eye bags there, but I can go back and fix that, no problem, right? And then of course, the forehead, we're gonna have a nice shiny white spot right there. Certainly one above here, right? And then kind of coming up and over the eyebrow, where the light is kind of hitting it. Again, really trying to avoid lines and thinking more about shadow. I really want to get that droop on the jowl. Going like so. Blending it. Right. You can also, if you're thinking you want less of a specific line, you can just dab your finger. You need a little more, just dab your finger in the makeup and just add it. Start to see how that's starting to look like it's sagging, huh? Here. The upper part of his mouth, he wore dentures, so generally speaking, you kind of got this little bit of a bulbous upper lip here, and that was just because he was wearing fake teeth. So to kind of emulate that, I'm going to make a nice puffy front there. There we go. And I want to get these necklines to pop a little bit. So it's a pretty big area. So again, I'm just going to kind of create a highlight there and blend it down. Go on either side there, because then there's another tendon there. Right. And as you start to blend that away, you start to see old age, right? Make sure I got. It's not quite as easy to see into my computer as I had thought, but I think it's working. Okay. And so, you continue to sort of adjust and look as you find in the mirror. Where are the hots? Where are the hot whites? Where are the dark lowlights, right? And you may think, well, gosh, I might want these cheeks to be sunken in a little more. I might want to spend a little more time creating more highlight in some of the areas. So if I want to make an area hotter, I'm going to take this ultralight, this sort of creamy white, and then I'm going to, right over the top, just add a nice hot white right down the middle, like so. Right? And then just kind of blend it into that. And it's really going to help. I'll do the same with my nose, just right down the center. Again, it's the midtones. It's something that you're it takes some time to see. What is the hottest, lightest part, and what is the darkest part, right? Same there, right? Looks like I can use a little bit of shadow up there between some of those wrinkles. Maybe create another one here, like so. So just kind of blend that out. Again, trying to avoid lines. I know they are lines, but the less you can make them look like Sharpie, the more realistic it'll look from stage. Yeah, I could probably blend this out a little bit more too, into the temples. Yeah, like so. Got a little bit of a white mark there. So try to, again, avoid like these hard areas where it just kind of stops, try to remember to blend some of those in, right? I'll kind of go under my eye here with some shadow just to help make that first bag pop. Like so. Okay. So you start to see as things progress. I'm going to go to my my cream contour wheel. This is the character wheel that has a different brown, a different low light, a black, sort of this rouge color. I'm just going to take some of this darker brown and I'm going to paint into my lip here. Just a little bit here. Just to help reassign where that lip is coming from. And then I'm going to go over it with that sort of ruddy red color just to make it look a little more like a lip. My grandfather he was Dutch. So he kind of had this long kind of fish mouth. So blend that down and over. Just pull it down just a little bit, right? Just to help elongate the mouth, right? Certainly, when you're looking at liver spots, and other such skin deformities or skin coloration, one of the great things you can use is a stipple sponge to help sort of get those splotches, either red splotches if it's a little bit of a burst blood vessel, or you can also use it in the tans and browns to help create that liver spot look too. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm not going to add any blush or anything right now. I'm just going to powder over this and see kind of where we are. Of course, our translucent face powder is really, really helpful for two things. It helps to set and to blend some of your lines. It also is great to help the sweating issue, right? If you're on stage, certainly we all have, issues with sweat. So you always want to make sure that you powder well. I just kind of stick it on a plastic tray here, and I grab my brush, and I'm just going to powder over most of this, right? And it'll help to blend some of those lines that we were talking about, right? It's going to help set the makeup so that it doesn't smear, but it's also going to help blend some of those really strong choices that you made. Just kind of go all over here, like so. Okay. Certainly you can add rouge, you can add an eyeliner, all those defining features. If you're having real trouble with the brush, with your wrinkles, you can absolutely turn to an eyebrow pencil. You just want to go pretty lightly because this isn't going to blend as well as the cream contour. So this is something you can use. It's just, again, just be aware that you're going to end up with more lines if you use something like this. Now, you're probably looking at me and going, Darren, yeah, okay, you don't look that old. One of the things that really helps to pull it all together, right, is the hair. My hair is grayer by the day, but generally speaking, at 45, my hair is still relatively brown. You have a thing, either you have the silver gray or you have a snow white. This looks a little different than what's in your kit. I'm going to use the snow white. And this is just hair whitener. It washes out. It's pretty easy and pretty safe. I'm going to take the top off, and I'm actually going to go for this eyebrow brush thing, this little double end thing. And I just put some snow white in the cap here, just took some of the makeup from the cap. I'm going to cake the bristly side with some of this snow white, right? And I'm going to go ahead and paint in my eyebrows because that will help. And one of the great things that happens when your hair turns white or gray is it becomes very wiry and coarse. And so to help emulate that, I'm actually going to comb backwards onto my eyes. So watch, my eyebrows. I'm just going to take this brush and I'm just going to kind of go backwards like so, trying not to cake it on too much, but really just giving a nice frosted tip to it, right? Same here. If you get chunks, you can just wipe them right off. Oops, like that. So after you powder, you can go ahead and add some white to your eyebrows, and see, even when I start to step away, take my hair out of the equation, it starts to really become convincing. So I'll take a little bit more, and this time I'm gonna just rub it into my temples. I'm gonna go with the grain just because my hair is long and I don't want it to look super crazy. But you can just take this brush and just make yourself a little gray. My grandfather he had beautiful white thick hair. He kind of had male pattern baldness like I do, kind of right on the back of his head. But to the day he died, he had very thick hair in the front of his head. So you can start to see that as I paint this in, it really does help to kind of tie everything together and make it a little more believable. Just kind of paint in the front here. Whoops, got a little crazy. So you can see just adding that little bit of negative white into my hair really helps to solidify the whole thing. The other thing that's really super helpful, if I can find, is of course the use of wigs. There's a tutorial today, or not a tutorial, just a little information and a couple of videos for you to watch about the world of wigs. We will start with middle age next week, and then we're going to move into facial hair. But I wanted to at least introduce the culture of wigs. We don't really have the opportunity to work with wigs because we're online. But this wig is a hard front wig. It's we've had this, I just pulled it from the shop. But if you start to add things like this, right? As you know, this wig is a little crazy, but it certainly does transform the makeup and helps to kind of create that character look. So already you can see I look very different than when we started. So that's kind of your quick and dirty lesson on old age makeup. Be brave, make bold choices. I'm sure you're going to do great. As always, I'm here for questions. You can certainly email me or Grace. We're happy to help you. I'm so delighted with all of the work that you've put in thus far in the semester. So happy old aging. So this week we want to have a photo of our relative that we're going to model our photograph from, a makeup map, a full makeup rendering, a before picture of your face, and an after picture of your face on the Google slide. So have a great week, and thanks for watching.